Pedun. Now we do continue with for most of this week the news has been awash with reports of the incentives given to the investors coming into the country compared to those offered to small and medium-sized enterprises. So we turn to the executive of the Federation of Small and Medium Enterprises, that is Mr. WALUGEMBE John, on what should be done for small enterprises as well. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me here this afternoon.
Yes, Mr. WALUGEMBE. Yes. Now, to start off with, let us refresh ourselves on the investment incentives that have been offered to the SMEs.
Okay, so the revised investment code of 2019 under clause 12 highlights what any investor, domestic or foreign, has to do in order to benefit from incentives. First of all, it's required that if you're a foreign investor, you must bring at least a minimum of $250,000 US. If you're a domestic investor, a minimum of 50,000. We think that's a lot, but that's what it is. Now, once you get an investment license, you're entitled to certain benefits, which are clarified in the law.
Yes.
For instance, if you set up within an industrial park, any you are about 100% of the income that you derive from your operations there is entitled to a 10-year tax holiday. If you are a local investor and you're exporting, most of your what you're exporting is mostly finished consumer capital goods, you're still entitled to a 10-year tax holiday. So the number of incentives there within the code that either foreign or domestic investors can benefit from. In addition, within the tax laws, there's a range of tax relief that you can benefit from that government has highlighted. So that is not our quarrel, really, because that's clear.
You mean you're quarreling?
Our quarrel are the discretionary incentives that are given by the Minister of Finance, which is mandated in law, but we think at some point it's really abused. If you look at the recent coffee deal and the kind of benefits that the investor was given, I don't think it was necessary, because if that investor were to do what she promised, which is agro-processing, the range of incentives anyway within the law that she would benefit from, the minister shouldn't have short-circuited those by giving her blanket tax relief for years and so on. So we think this is where the problem is. Because there's no domestic investor who accesses such, you see. Yes, so I think that is something that ought to change. Yes.
These tax holidays, do you think that SMEs should also enjoy some of them?
Of course. No, but it should be transparent. The process is not transparent. If I want for government to build a road to my factory, like the deal said, if I want government to subsidize my electricity bill, what do I go? Do I call up the minister? Do I write a letter? So the opaqueness of the process is where problem is, and we think there needs to be more transparency. Government needs to, if they think that these discretionary incentives are still necessary, government needs to set up a committee of eminent persons where SMEs will be represented to assess the validity of the investment proposals. Then the minister should approve. Then ultimately Parliament should also have a say, so that everyone is involved.
Yes. Well, I would like you to also talk about the earlier COVID-19 stimulus package for SMEs. Should we not ditch this and just embrace the challenges that the SMEs are actually facing?
You mean ditch the relief?
Yes.
No, I mean, it's a good thing if government has put in place something, however small it is, we must appreciate it. And government put in place a 200 billion package, working with the Uganda Bankers Association and the Federation of SMEs to ensure that our small businesses are supported. Obviously, the uptake of this has been rather low, and the causes are different. The banks are saying different things, the SMEs are saying different things. But I think it's a good thing that this package was put in place, and I would encourage all SMEs out there to take advantage. You know, it's at the end of the day, it's taxpayers' money, and if you don't pick it, someone else will pick it, and then you start complaining, oh, foreign investors, what not. So if you have an opportunity, please also take advantage of that.
So how best can Uganda's investment code address the various bottlenecks that the SMEs face?
Investment incentives need to be clarified. We need to remove all kinds of discretionary investment incentives, like giving free land at a whim. You at a public rally and say, you have given you and square mile, you have given you 500 acres. Don't even know who is on that acre, where the land is, and things of that.
So you need clarity.
Everything needs to be structured. And government has done a lot through the revised investment code, through the tax code, to ensure that incentives are standardized. However, this remaining bottleneck of the minister having discretion to give incentives as he wishes, we think is a problem and is at the moment being abused. Yes.
Okay, so as we wrap this up in your parting shot, you know, it is weeks to the end of, you know, the current financial year. What would you like to see by way of any relief directed towards the SMEs?
Government needs to look at any emerging challenges. Now we have the issue of inflation, we have the issue of high commodity prices, high fuel prices. These are things that government ought to look at seriously because they can create a ripple effect in the economy. So we think government needs to take the proposals that some of us have presented to them with regard to addressing the current situation seriously.
Okay. Yeah. Well, thank you, Mr. John WALUGEMBE, for the Director for the Federation of Small and Medium Enterprises. Well, he's getting to shed some light on the SME incentives that are being introduced by the government. Well, we move on with NTV.